A human baby will cry for about 1,300 hours before their second birthday. That is roughly 54 days of non-stop, high-pitched screaming designed by evolution to drive you completely insane. But why does it sound so awful? It turns out that agonizing sound is a masterpiece of biological engineering. A normal human baby's cry sits at a pitch of about 400 to 500 Hertz. However, when a baby gets truly distressed, that pitch spikes to 3,000 Hertz or higher. This is not a random number. The human ear is anatomically tuned to be most sensitive to sounds between 2,000 and 4,000 Hertz. A baby's cry lands directly in the sweet spot of your evolutionary panic zone. It is a sound you physically cannot ignore. In 1998, researchers at the Canadian Institute of Advanced Research proved that a baby's cry triggers an immediate fight or flight response in adults. Within seconds of hearing the sound, your heart rate spikes. Your blood pressure rises. Your body releases cortisol, which is the chemical driver of stress. The baby is not just crying to express discomfort. The baby is using acoustic terrorism to hijack your central nervous system. To understand why they cry so much, we have to look back millions of years. Look at a baby chimpanzee. Immediately after birth, a baby chimp can cling tightly to its mother's fur. It can survive on its own for short periods. But a human baby is born completely helpless. They cannot hold their own heads up. They cannot cling. They cannot run. Anthropologists call human babies extrauterine fetuses. Dr. Karen Rosenberg, an evolutionary anthropologist, explains this through a concept called the obstetric dilemma. As humans evolved to walk upright, our pelvises became narrower to support bipedal movement. At the exact same time, our brains became much larger. If a human baby stayed in the womb until they were as physically developed as a newborn chimp, their head would be too large to fit through the birth canal. To solve this, nature struck a dangerous compromise. Human babies are born roughly 3 months too early. They are essentially external fetuses. Because they are born so vulnerable, they need a 24-hour survival lifeline. They cannot cling to us with their hands, so they cling to us with their vocal cords. The cry is an invisible umbilical cord. For decades, parents assumed that all baby cries sounded the same. But in 2006, an Australian operatic singer named Priscilla Dunstan made a shocking discovery. Dunstan possessed a photographic memory for sound. After listening to thousands of infants from different cultures around the world, she identified a universal language of newborn cries. She discovered that babies before the age of 3 months make 5 distinct pre-cry sounds. These sounds are not conscious communication. They are involuntary physical reflexes. The first sound is neigh. When a baby is hungry, their sucking reflex kicks in. They press their tongue against the roof of their mouth. As air passes over the tongue, it creates the sound neigh. If you hear neigh, feed the baby. The second sound is oh. This sound is caused by the yawning reflex. The baby's mouth opens in an oval shape, stretching the throat. The sound that comes out is oh. This means the baby is tired. The third sound is heh. This indicates physical discomfort. It might mean they are cold, wet, or in an uncomfortable position. The sound is triggered by a skin reflex, creating a breathy heh sound. The fourth sound is air. This is a deeper, more urgent sound. It is produced when gas is trapped in the lower abdomen. The baby tenses their pelvic muscles and pulls their knees up, compressing the abdomen and forcing air out in a strained air sound. The fifth sound is eh. This means the baby needs to burp. It is caused by a bubble of air trapped in the chest. The body tries to release it, causing a short, repetitive eh sound. These 5 sounds are physiological reflexes. But if a parent ignores these subtle cues, the reflex transitions into a full-blown, generic scream. Even if you meet every single physical need, some babies still cry for hours on end. This agonizing phase often starts around the 2nd week of life and peaks at about 6 weeks. For generations, doctors blamed this on bad parenting or gas. But in the early 2000s, a developmental pediatrician named Dr. Ronald Barr introduced a new framework called the period of purple crying. This is a normal developmental phase that all healthy babies go through. Purple is an acronym. P stands for peak of crying. The crying increases each week, peaking at month 2, then gets better. U stands for unexpected. The crying can start and stop for no apparent reason. R stands for resists soothing. Nothing you do seems to stop the tears. P stands for pain-like face. The baby looks like they are in agony, even when they are not in pain. L stands for long-lasting. The crying can go on for 5 hours a day, or more. E stands for evening. The baby cries more in the late afternoon and evening. Dr. Barr's research showed that this phase is not a medical emergency. It is a transition period where the baby's developing nervous system is temporarily overwhelmed by the world. But what happens when the crying goes beyond the normal limit? This is where we enter the realm of colic. In 1954, a legendary pediatrician named Dr. Morris Wessel established a diagnostic benchmark that doctors still use today. It is called the rule of threes. A baby is diagnosed with colic if they cry for more than 3 hours a day, for more than 3 days a week, for more than 3 weeks. Colic affects up to 20% of all infants. For 70 years, scientists have tried to find the exact cause of colic. Some point to an immature digestive system. Others point to an imbalance in gut bacteria. A 2018 study published in the journal Pediatrics found that colicky babies often have higher levels of a gut bacteria called Klebsiella, which causes inflammation and gas. But despite millions of dollars of research, there is still no cure. It simply disappears on its own, usually around the 4th month of life. The impact of this crying on the adult brain is profound. In 2012, researchers at the University of Oxford conducted a groundbreaking study using magnetoencephalography to map brain activity in real time. They played baby cries to adult participants and monitored their neural responses. What they found was astonishing. Within just 100 milliseconds of hearing a baby cry, the adult brain activates 2 key regions. The first is the amygdala, which is the brain's emotional fire alarm. The second is the orbitofrontal cortex, which controls reward and decision-making. This response happens in 100 milliseconds. To put that in perspective, a blink of an eye takes 300 milliseconds. Your brain registers a baby's cry 3 times faster than you can blink. Interestingly, this reaction is identical in adults who do not have children. It is a hardwired human trait. Your brain is programmed to prepare your body for immediate, life-saving action. Humans are also the only species on Earth that cry emotional tears. Other mammals make distress vocalizations. A kitten will mew. A puppy will whine. But they do not shed tears. Why do human babies shed liquid tears? Interestingly, infants do not actually produce tears when they cry for the first few weeks of life. Their tear ducts are not fully developed until they are about 1 to 3 months old. Evolutionary biologists believe that liquid tears evolved as a silent signal. A loud cry is highly effective at attracting a parent, but it also attracts predators. In the wild, a screaming baby is a homing beacon for a hungry predator. As babies grow older, they transition from vocal crying to visual tearing. A tear running down a cheek communicates distress to a caregiver standing close by, without alerting a predator lurking in the bushes. It is a silent distress flare. When we look at a crying baby, we often feel a sense of failure. We feel stressed, angry, and exhausted. But science shows us that crying is not a sign of failure. It is a triumph of human survival. It is the highly sophisticated, incredibly loud language of a creature born too early into a world too big. Without that irritating, 3000 Hertz, brain hijacking sound, our ancestors would have ignored us, our species would have ended, and none of us would be here today. The next time you hear a baby cry, do not just hear noise. Hear the ancient, biological engine of human survival, working exactly the way it was designed to.